My name is Sari van Pooyen. I'm the director of Intact Academy and of Agile Business Innovation. Please go to our websites if you want to know more. We've got really cool programs and a great way of creating agile innovative teams for you. We're talking about conflicts and more specifically conflict resolution. I did an appeal really to look at the emotion underneath and really the meaning underneath the conflict for you as a way of opening the door to opportunity. More specifically, I want to invite you to look at the hidden meaning of conflict. And you go, yeah, I've done that before. But I want to give you a kind of a ladder of finding the meaning of a conflict. And if you go up that ladder, it's much easier to resolve conflicts. Or if you go down that ladder, you can also find the hidden meaning. So we call that, there's a kind of a ladder that starts with, at the top with, what are the material issues involved? So what is visible? What is it about? That's the most simple and obvious question you can answer. So in the last example I gave, it was about putting out the trash. If you want to ignore all the rest and just find a way to put out the trash that doesn't always involve you and doesn't always involve conflict, talk about the material issue involved. What is it about? Yes, the trash. What is it about? Apart from the trash, it's about time structuring. I don't always want to be busy with household stuff. I want to have a life in which I'm not always putting out the trash. I want to be writing my book, whatever. That's a material issue. Time. A material issue could be money. You know, who do we have to pay someone to put out the trash? You know, time is money for many people. So all that time spent in household stuff. I mean, here at home, we've given up on putting out the trash. We just hired someone to help us do that because really that gives a circular economy. It's important, I think. I'm not very good at it. So, you know, it stops me from having fights about who puts out the trash. Um, a material issue could also be more time, money, but it could also be space. Let's put it bluntly. If you could stop yourself from putting out the trash by having 5 trash cans in the house and just waiting till all of them are full, but that would take up quite a lot of space in your house. Do you really want that? It's not such a strange thing to say because when I lived in Sweden, we actually did have 4 trash cans, one for each type of trash, which was great for the environment. And our value is very environmental in that sense, but it took up a lot of space. So what does it, sometimes it was, oh my God, which trash can does it have to be in? And do we really want all that trash in our house? So conflict resolution first, the easiest way, focus on the material issue, time, space, money, and is there a resolution you can find in that area? The second step, it's almost like a step on the way down, is personality. So as I said in the last blog, some people seem to fight about a whole lot of different things, but at the personality level, so the emotion involved, the conclusions you draw from conflict is really based on what type of person you are. There are types of people who fight about specific things. I use the process communication model to look at personality types. We have the different personality types who always have the same issues. So for instance, we have a rebel personality type. They're always in and out of groups. They're on the edge. Usually they fight about, when it gets too boring, but really their issue is usually, do I belong or not? I can predict that. If I have someone in my team coaching that has that their personality type, they're going to fight about in or out, do I belong, even if I behave obnoxiously. It's, kind of a predictable kind of conflict. Um, when I have workaholics in my teams, people who are really, I guess clinically you'd call them obsessive compulsive, but I usually work with people who are successful and who have, kind of surface issues around that. Workaholics, over responsible people, they're usually going to fight about responsibilities and time. They find themselves doing more than other people, and then suddenly it stacks up, and they start conflicts about, am I the only person doing things around here? Personality is a great indicator. What kind of conflicts do you get? We also have a personality type called harmonizer, people who are really focused on emotion and on relationship, want to please others, forget to please themselves. At a certain moment, they're going to have a conflict about, I'm always the one taking care of others, who's taking care of me? So personality, after material issues, one of the ways you can look at conflict is, given your personality, would this be predictable, and can we solve the issue underneath instead of always having the same conflict? And I say that always it sounds a bit unfriendly, but what I mean is there are better ways to spend your lifetime. As far as we know, you only have one life, so why not spend it on something that gives you more energy and more learning instead of repeating something you already know? The third step in looking at conflict resolution is really what emotion is involved, what ideas are involved. And I mean ideas in the sense of, is there something, an idea you're really attached to that's not being taken care of in this conflict? I already talked about emotions in the last bit. Within transactional analysis, we talk about racket emotions and authentic emotions. An interesting way to look at conflicts. Sometimes people express emotions that you think, really, is this what's going on? Because I'll explain. A racket emotion is really an emotion you've learned in early childhood to replace the emotion you weren't allowed to express. So for instance, I grew up in a family where fear was really a no-no. Interestingly enough, we moved 38 times. There was a lot of reason as a child to be scared, but fear was not talked about in our family. Instead, people did anger. So interestingly, when I'm in a conflictuous situation, that's the first place I go to. What I really should be concentrating on is the authentic feeling underneath is probably fear. And lots of people do that. Like, anger over fear is really, we traditionally see that in men. Sadness over anger is traditionally, I'm not saying it's true, but traditionally what we see in women. It's much more interesting to focus on, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Is that the authentic or the racket feeling that's going on? If you feed the racket feeling, you'll never resolve the conflict because it's not the real feeling and it's not the real need. I'll explain. So if I express anger over fear, what happens in a conflict is that people will take a step back. But the fear underneath is really, really a need for someone standing beside me. So I'm, oddly enough, causing the opposite of what I need in a conflict. And it's a place to look, at the third level. What emotion am I feeling? Is that real or not real? It feels, both feel real, but I mean, is it authentic or is it a racket feeling? And what is the authentic feeling and what does that tell me about the need in that conflict? The fourth level we look at in conflict resolution is really focusing on the needs and wants underneath. So emotions are a great gateway into understanding the needs underneath. One way to talk about needs is just to sit down and say, forget about the trash and who puts out the trash. What is the need I have in this relationship? And then surprisingly, perhaps people will talk about, I need to feel that we're both sharing the load. I need to feel that I'm not the only one thinking of the things that need to be done. I need to feel, I need to feel that you love me by the small things you also do in this household. And so talking about the needs underneath is really important. The difficulty is if people are in the heat of the moment, it's very difficult to talk about needs and to take them seriously. So I used to live in Saudi Arabia, and we used to say there, never drink the tea while it's hot. I don't know where that comes from, because actually drinking hot tea in a hot climate actually cools you down. But anyway, that was the saying. In a conflict, that's a really handy saying, because never drink the tea while it's hot. It's very difficult to talk about needs and wants if you're still stuck on the trash. If you're still really hot on the trash, it's really hard to say, hey, honey, I want to feel supported around here. It's not going to fly. So wait till it's cooled down, kind of announce, let's talk about this later. And then breathe, go out, whatever you need to do, and then come back and say, okay, so this isn't really interesting to spend our relationship talking about trash. Let's talk about, John Gottman calls it the house of love. He says, your responsibility, if you love someone, is responsibility. Your goal, if you love someone, is to help them realize their dreams. That's an interesting way of putting it. Not your dreams, their dreams. Then it's easier to focus on needs and wants. The fifth level of going, conflict resolution, going down that ladder is, if you're ready for it, is really to talk about values and self-esteem. Often conflicts come from the fact that you're in the conflict confirming people's view about themselves. And within transactional analysis, we talk about life positions. So we talk about 4 basic life positions. We say plus plus, so that means I'm okay, you're okay, and we're in a flow together, and probably you won't have conflict as long as you're in that position. We talk about plus minus, so I'm a little bit more okay than you are. That's, George Orwell said some animals are more equal than others. If you do a conflict from that position, like I'm a little bit more okay, then the other person will feel less okay. And obviously, if that's their basic life position, it's really painful to confirm that in a conflict about the trash material issues. You're the one who, actually what's underneath this is, you're the one who puts out the trash because I think I'm a bit more okay than you are. And so if you take it seriously, that in a relationship, your kind of your intention is to help your partner fulfill their dreams, then an interesting conversation to have is, how does this conflict confirm your life position? Plus minus, we also talk about minus plus, I'm a bit less okay than you. Minus minus is really bad because you get really, really bad conflicts. So in that way, you say, I'm not okay, you're not okay. So in actual fact, you see a lot of escalating, we call them games, into third degree, really bad stuff. But if you're normal neurotic like me, then usually you're kind of hanging in that plus minus minus plus at your worst. If you see yourself having really bad conflicts, you're in minus minus, I'd really go and get help. That conversation of conflict resolution at the 5th step about self-esteem, what are we confirming by having this conflict? That's a really fruitful conversation to have. And how can I help you stay out of that? It's not, it's at best in a partnership, a relationship, any form of relationship, you help each other become, at the, a horrible expression nowadays, your best self. What people mean by that is to stay in plus plus. And so a conversation about how can we stay in that plus plus position? You're okay, I'm okay, and we're okay together. Is a good conversation to have, after the tea has cooled down, you've talked about values, about needs and wants, to talk about, hey, I'm confirming my old vision of myself, and that's not really okay. I'm putting it on you, by the way. I'm enticing you to start this conflict with me so that I can confirm this old vision of myself. That also makes who you have a conflict with less personal. In actual fact, conflicts feel extremely personal, but you're just picking people who will confirm your old life story. And that makes it much easier to talk about what's happening between us and what does that say about me? Not what does it say about you? What does it say about me? For instance, if I do anger over fear and I get other people pissed off and I don't get the help I need, the support I need because I'm actually feeling scared, it confirms, in the end, it might confirm a minus plus position. And so it's really good to have a partner in whatever shape or form who can help me overcome that old stuff. It takes a lot of heart to have a conversation like that. So, but it's really, really important. If you can be your best self together, that's a fantastic partnership to have. That brings us straight to the last level of conflict resolution, and that is that every conflict tells you something about something that's unresolved from your past. At worst, you're just replaying scenarios that have been unresolved from your past. And as I was saying, this, fear over anger, not getting the support, minus plus position is really not something that's uh, relevant even in my life today. But it was relevant when I was a kid, that's how I felt. And so at the deepest level, if you really, really want to go to that conflict resolution with the person you're with, it's to talk about how you felt as a kid and what emotions came up, what kind of conflicts you replay this in. And maybe together you can find some kind of stop word or gesture or I don't know, a joke or anything, a symbol that you could exchange with each other, even saying, oh, we're going there again, and just stop whatever you're doing. Go and make some tea, have a walk outside, come back, talk about, that nearly was something that I remember from my past. And then to have a conversation about what did I contribute to this conflict? What 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 kind of relationship do I want with you? And what do we need to agree to avoid this kind of situation in future? That will deepen your relationship. You won't be talking about who puts out the trash. You will be talking about, oh, I did it again. I need some help here. And I really, really wish you a relationship like that. You'll never get conflict free, but your conflict will be the doorway not to your past, but to your future.